is so cool to see Candace Owens finally telling the truth about flat Earth, because she finally learned the truth about our Earth. It is so beautiful. And the questioning she did before that on Israel and everything, I was very impressed. It's just nice to see. She went through those flat Earth facts, okay? She went through the material. She knows what's up now.
Is space CGI? Is NASA just lying to us and faking everything? Is space fake? What's going on, guys? Right here we have the sun, which is walking across the water, which I don't know how it appears that the sun is moving if apparently Earth is moving and we're spinning around it. And look at that, guys. The sun was supposedly setting, but we can just zoom in and see the sun right there. That's just moving across the sky. It wasn't setting at all. It was just moving. And we all know the law of reflection proves that light cannot walk across a curved surface. It is contained in one spot. But of course, guys, entertainment purposes only. I know the sun is 93 million miles away, even though all the images of all the stars provided to us from NASA and other space agencies look nothing like the stars and the planets that we see with our personal cameras. Isn't that crazy? Is Venus a planet? Or is it oscillating light and sound, vibrating at a specific frequency? All the stars that they show us on their CGI images look absolutely nothing like what we see with real cameras. But of course, guys, I must be lying. And NASA's telling the truth. They have our best interest in mind, even though these are all CGI. How are they getting these numbers? This doesn't make any sense. So why would NASA lie to us and not show us what the stars and planets actually look like in our solar system? Maybe we don't live in a solar system. Perhaps this image right here is CGI. It looks pretty edited to me. And why are clouds in front of and behind the sun if the sun is outside of our atmosphere and 93 million miles away? Even though the globe model makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, I know the Earth is a globe because I don't believe my five senses, and I love NASA with all of my heart. So much.
So some people believe that we've never been to space, and the more I learn, the more that kind of seems like apparent. The newest thing hasn't happened yet. It's gonna happen tomorrow. Boeing is going to fly live human astronauts to the International Space Station. But in typical Boeing fashion, there have been some issues with the means of transportation. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, shall we? It was originally supposed to launch 3 weeks ago, but because of these issues, they've been delayed a bit, but not all of the issues have been fixed. No. A valve on the rocket malfunctioned and the launch was called off and rescheduled to tomorrow. And this just led to a whole host of issues, okay? The engineers discovered a small helium leak, and then while analyzing the leak, they stumbled upon a design vulnerability in the spacecraft's propulsion system. Honestly, what can go wrong? So they ended up swapping out a valve, but then they decided not to plug the helium leak, saying it won't pose a threat to safety. But that, paired with the design vulnerability on the starliner, they determined that it could prevent the spacecraft from carrying out maneuvers necessary to return to Earth. But only under rare circumstances. Surely, nothing can go wrong. Boeing officials did say that they have a few ideas for permanent fixes for the design issue, but they'll apply them to later flights, not the one that's going on tomorrow, with the live human astronauts who are supposed to be going to the ISS. And this is all happening tomorrow in Florida. So I'll be following this pretty closely, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about all of this down below. So NASA and Boeing have a $4.2 billion contract. You heard that right, billion with a B. And a while ago, I talked about how they found a bunch of leaks on their starliner and decided they were just gonna go for it anyway. Well, they found more issues, so they decided to postpone it, but then they decided that they were just gonna wing it and went to the space station anyway with people on board. And as promised, I came with an update. As you can imagine, it didn't go very well. Luckily, no one is injured, but people might be stuck on the International Space Station. After years of delays and technical problems, Boeing's Starliner finally made it to the ISS with NASA astronauts Gilmore and Williams on board last week. But they don't know when it's going to be able to undock and deliver the crew back to Earth. So I'm glad I'm not them. The team has discovered an astonishing 5 helium leaks so far, and this gas is used for the spacecraft thruster to allow the thrusters to fire and navigate through space. They have no navigation system now. So this was already already a problem and they knew about it, but they decided to just go for it anyway, like I said before. And on its way up, it sprang even more helium leaks. Fortunately, they have about 10 times as much helium as is needed to maneuver through the near vacuum of space and return to Earth. But because of how bad the helium leaks are, they don't really know if they want to risk that, I guess. But hopefully these two can make a safe return back to Earth. As always, I look forward to hearing your thoughts about all of this down below.
Crazy, if you already don't call me crazy. I definitely won the award today because I got this package in the mail. Oh, shit. It's upside down. Thanks, Nathan. I'm going to be the most annoying, insufferable person to be around now. Because I've already talked about this shit all the time. I just never make videos, but... we about to today!
What the hell? You're in a cult.
This is what I needed to give you earlier.
Guys, I could do this all day long. Flight Pass proves that the Earth is flat. Can we all take a minute to talk about how this has never been done if we live on a supposed globe? Take this flight for example. This flight was from Rio to Sydney, so they decided to stop thousands of miles up north past the equator in Los Angeles. Like, if we live on a supposed globe, wouldn't it have been easier just to cross on the bottom side of it? But if you take a look at it on a Gleason's flat earth map, it makes total sense. From Rio to Sydney, Los Angeles is along the way. Now this one is a good one. This flight was from Auckland to Cape Town. Now if we live on this, as NASA says we do, this flight could have just flown right over Antarctica. Like, we all agree that would have been the fastest route, right? Absolutely not. If you take a look at it on a Gleason's flat earth map, they decided to fly thousands of miles north past the equator to land in Dubai. Now this flight is probably my favorite one. This flight was from Buenos Aires to Perth, Australia. We all know that the quickest way would just to fly over Antarctica, right? Now here are some flights from Buenos Aires to Perth, Australia, having to pass the equator twice. Now all these flights that I just showed you do not fly over Antarctica, and I think I know why. It's because Antarctica isn't actually a continent on the bottom side of a ball. It's actually an ice wall surrounding us. And oh, by the way, this map is used by all pilots.
96. It's a big boy. So I got two big guests, big names, big bodies.
Huge.
Yeah, I don't even know if I introduce you to. You got Rampage the Legend Jackson here. You got Bradley. Meet me at 260. Martin.
How much you weigh right now?
Why people care if people believe in the earth the way the Bible describes it? Why do people get so mad about that?
Does the Bible describe it as flat?
Yeah.
It does?
With the dome, the firmament, and everything.
Oh, that's news to me.
That's new. You never read the Bible?
No.
That's the problem.
That is a problem.
So
That's why
why
I go to hell.
So why do people get mad at people if they just describe the earth the way the oldest history book describes it?
Yeah. So does this mean you think it's flat?
Yep.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
But what were you gonna say about?
This is what changed me when I looked into emergency landings. Something simple as that. That's what changed me to go more to like, oh yeah. Then I went to the Bible and started reading with the Bible. You know, I used to be a Christian, so I was like, oh, I've read this stuff before, but you don't. We think of it different. I went there. Now I look at the Old Testament like a history book, and so I went and read it and like a history book. I was like, oh, okay, it broke everything down for me. But if you look into whenever you have time, just look into emergency landings.
What do you mean by emergency landing?
Like when say somebody's flying from Asia coming to LA,
yeah,
and like if it's an emergency or something, and then see like the way they land, and then you gonna think like, wow, that's not an emergency landing. They went all the way out the way, and then you got to break down why did they do that? Why they go all the way out the way, and they say it's an emergency landing. That's what changed my mind.
Why would they go all the way?
Exactly. That's his point.
Exactly.
But why would that prove that the Earth is flat if you go out of the way?
Because if it was an emergency, a real emergency, wouldn't you go somewhere closer?
When you go somewhere closer?
And not somewhere out of the way?
When we see the emergency landing on the globe, it don't make sense.
Oh, because it's like this.
Yeah, so it's farther away.
Yeah.
So common sense would tell me that we're being lied to about the geography of our things.
Why lie to us about the Earth being round, though?
That's the big question.
Albert Einstein said there was a kinematic and dynamic equivalence to the heliocentric and geocentric models of Earth?
Yes, Albert Einstein mentioned that there is kinematic and dynamic equivalence between the heliocentric and geocentric models. This means that both models can describe the motions of celestial bodies accurately, just from different reference frames.
So the only difference between the geocentric and heliocentric model is mathematics.
Yes, the main difference between the geocentric and heliocentric models lies in the mathematical framework and perspective used to describe the motions of celestial bodies.
They are perfectly equivalent, and there isn't one better than the other.
From a purely kinematic and dynamic perspective, Einstein suggested that they are perfectly equivalent, meaning neither model is inherently better than the other. The choice between them often depends on the convenience and simplicity of the mathematical descriptions.
Well, the geocentric is more practical, it's more intuitive, so wouldn't that be the better model?
From a practical and intuitive standpoint, you might argue that the geocentric model is better because it aligns more closely with everyday observations of the sky.
This is the path that the ISS takes. I have no idea what forces could be at play to cause that sort of a spiraling orbit unless the firmament is literally a giant kid's spirograph set.
You've never seen that pattern. Magnetic field lines, maybe? You ever heard of electrostatic levitation? Just by charging this PVC pipe with some wool, you can get enough electrostatic charge to cause a repulsive effect and cause things to levitate. Look at this. Now imagine instruments with some control. Isn't it funny that the electrostatic force seems to defy gravity, the bending and warping of space-time? It's the one thing that can counteract it. And depending on how things are charged, they can be repulsive or they can be attractive. Here's NASA in a zero-G plane doing tests with electrostatic orbital motion, causing two charged items to orbit. Now look at this. Charged bar causing this to do that. Now imagine a controlled environment where there are thrusters and things involved. Familiar, eh? And you know about the electricity in our atmosphere, that there's 100 volts per meter of electrostatic potential that can be harnessed. It's no secret, and they use this electrostatic force in electric propulsion. NASA has an electrostatic levitation laboratory. So don't you think they've figured out this anti-gravity technology using the electrostatics in the atmosphere? Used to, flat earthers were like, oh, satellites don't exist, the ISS doesn't exist. But here's the thing. I believe it is up there because we can see it crossing the moon and the sun. But here's the deal. I don't believe it's 250 miles away and following the bending and warping of space-time, the curvature of space-time. No, I believe that the ISS has so many solar panels because it uses this solar propulsion, harnessing the electrostatics in the atmosphere and having orbital motion following these electromagnetic field lines. Those of you who waited till the end get something special. He's charging this rod with wool. I'm going to tell you something very interesting about wool. You know Deuteronomy 22:11 that says, you shall not wear fabric made of wool and linen blended together. They say it's pagan. Yeah, it's actually witchcraft because linen's frequency is 5,000. Wool is also at 5,000, but when you mix those two together, that cancels each other out to a frequency of 0. We're talking low energy, low vibration frequency. Totally explains why 100% wool t-shirts are a freaking $100. So those Bible verses that you thought were meaningless actually mean something. So as this deception is going on, they're also deceiving you in how important this field of energy is to our bodies. You know, they try to hide the fact that grounding is good for us as they make these shoes with rubber soles. They try to hide the fact that certain diets raise our frequency, vibration, and our energy field. I believe this created realm that we live in has a lot more secrets to uncover than we think. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. John D. Rockefeller, who put his money where his mouth is when he took over the public education system. A system that prides itself on catching those thinkers before they think too much. You know, the public education system. Rule number 1, stand in line. Rule number 2, only speak when spoken to. Raise your hand and ask permission to speak. So how did Rockefeller know if he was dealing with one of those pesky little thinkers? Well, a thinker finds schoolwork redundant. They want to be creative. Create little paper airplanes. They want fellowship and laughter. Somewhere deep down, they know that laughter is the best medicine, and they like to be silly and funny. No having fun now. You need to follow the rules. Don't worry, we have a medical solution for that. I'm sorry, sir, your child is just thinking too much, so we need to chemically castrate the creative center in their brain so that they learn to behave themselves and sit down and shut up and do their schoolwork. We don't need any more thinkers because thinkers are world changers, and we all know what happens when thinkers get through and turn into world changers. I myself had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I liked to fellowship with kids in school and have fun and make people laugh and laugh myself because I found the schoolwork to be redundant. And somehow I could see how I wasn't going to use any of this in my life. And somehow I was right. You know, the public education system seems to be a workhorse factory rather than a place to make you think critically and learn about real life, like how to do your taxes, how to apply for a home loan, how to be a good person, a good friend, a good father, a good husband, a good wife, a good sister, a good brother, a good human. But instead, they teach you a history that ended up being false, science that ended up being only half-truths. Now, don't get me wrong, there is plenty that you can learn in the public education system. But is it doing it correctly? And those who are different, so to speak, the creative minds, the ones who find school redundant, is it really necessary to medicate them to get them through the system? Is it ruining young creative minds who could change the world for the better? I'll leave that for you to decide.
It came in the mail and y'all are opening it with me. Ooh. Smell it. Woo! Here we go.
The Flat Earth map dates back over 1,000 years. This map is credited to being created by a Persian astronomer. His name was Al-Biruni and he lived between 973 AD to 1048 AD. It's the official map of the United Nations and also the United States Geological Survey. It used to be present in many places before the creation of NASA and the Antarctic Treaty in 1959. Here you see it with Admiral Byrd. This map has been restored by Dmitry from Russia with suggestions of mine, Eddie Alenkar. Known by my YouTube channel Flat Earth Banjo, I asked Dmitry to include the Bermuda Triangle and Point Nemo, a place deep in the Pacific where NASA buries rockets. Then Robert Tozzi, a professional mapmaker, came along and enhanced the map even more. There are many people now selling this map online, but if you could order it from my online store, I would greatly appreciate it. Visit my online store now and order one of the items. I humbly thank you.